Well, did he just help or hurt himself? Sarah Westwood says it's about time Republicans get tough, but Kayleigh McEnany says the senator needs to get a clue. To you first, Sarah. Rand Paul admits that he was testy. He sometimes loses his temper. You don't think he hurts himself?
Well, Rand Paul is walking a fine line here, right? On the one hand, voters crave authenticity. Countless cycles have shown that voters don't respond as well to candidates who seem like they evade the tough questions. On the other hand, this is the very beginning of Rand Paul's campaign. It's his first chance to define himself to an audience that doesn't necessarily know who he is. But like I said, and like you said, this is the very beginning of the campaign. He himself has admitted that, he knows he needs to work on his conduct on the air. So it's probably too early to characterize him one way or the other.
All right, Kayleigh, you think that what he said the other day, it hurts him?
I do. I think that it's undeniable that there's a bias in the mainstream media. We recognize that, and I think Rand Paul was frustrated, understandably so, seeing the way Savannah Guthrie asked him questions that she might not ask a Democrat candidate. However, you have to realize you can't change the mainstream media. You've got to outsmart them, and you do that by taking yourself off the offense, taking yourself off the defense, rather, and putting yourself on the offense the way that Ronald Reagan did. Kayleigh,
I remember distinctly George Bush Sr. taking on and calling out Dan Rather and just totally wiping the floor with the man. He won by going after Dan Rather. You don't think that a Republican could do the same these days, Kayleigh?
I don't, because I think if you look at our last 3 presidents, they were all very likable and they all handled their opponents very well. Barack Obama is a great example, President Bush, and I go back to Ronald Reagan and the infamous debate with Walter Mondale where he was criticized, asked if he was too old to be president. He cleverly quipped back, let's not make age an issue. I don't want to exploit my opponent's youth and inexperience. What a brilliant line. I think humor hits home.
All right, now let me run a soundbite from Ronald Reagan where he got really testy about ownership and control of the microphone that he'd paid for. Roll tape.
Mr. Green,
can you turn that microphone
you
off,
asked
please?
for me if you... I am paying for this microphone, Mr.
Sarah, I think Ronald Reagan just proved that he could be a real first-class tough guy executive. I mean, he did it.
Well, the problem is, voters aren't going to remember a couple of bumpy interviews here at the beginning. If history has told us anything, it's that the collective memory of the electorate is quite unreliable. It's hard enough to get voters to remember major flaws in a candidate when they go to the polls, let alone minor dust-ups with reporters so early in the campaign.
Okay, I do have the soundbite, by the way, from George Bush Sr. going after Dan Rather. Kayleigh, I'm going to play this just for you. Roll tape.
I don't want to be argumentative, Mr. Vice President.
You do, Dan.
No,
this is not a great night because I want to talk about why I want to be president, why those 41% of the people are supporting me.
And Mr.
I
Vice
don't
President,
think it's
these
fair
questions
to
are
judge a whole career. It's not fair to judge my whole career by a rehash on Iran. How would you like it if I judged your career by those 7 minutes when you walked off the set in New York?
Well,
now, would you like that?
Mr.
I have
Vice
respect
President,
for you, but I don't have respect for what you're doing here tonight.
Kayleigh, I think he won hands down.
I think so, but here's the thing. There's a time and a place, and you have to choose the time and the place. And I don't think that an interview with the Today Show, with the morning show, was the place for that. And let's keep in mind, the GOP is going to be facing likely an unprecedented challenge, debating Hillary Clinton, and the GOP candidate has to be very careful, combat her delicately, go after her delicately, pick the time and the place to have a moment like what we just saw.
All right, Sarah Westwood, Kayleigh McEnany, both of you, thank you very much for joining us. Okay.